Whoa. My name is Strange Eli, and I saw this movie recently called Spider-Man Homecoming. It was really good, but there were some things about it that were kind of weird, some problems that I had, and I wanted to talk about it, but maybe this isn't the right place to talk. Alright, let's move. Okay, so the thing is that Spider-Man Homecoming is awesome. It's got all these really awesome action sequences. It's got these moments where you really get to see Peter Parker be Peter Parker in high school. I'm glad that the Marvel Cinematic Universe finally has Spider-Man. I'm happy for all these things, and it was a great time, and it still made me feel like a kid. I still had dreams afterwards about being Spider-Man, and I wanted to do Spider-Man things, just like I felt when I had seen this other Spider-Man movies beforehand. But there are things that worse Spider-Man movies have done better than they do in Spider-Man Homecoming. The thing about Spider-Man Homecoming is that a majority of the movie takes place with these characters who we have no familiarity with. And that's okay. I mean, you can have new characters, but the problem is that when you have a character like Spider-Man, Peter Parker on his own has so many interesting, characters that he can play around with and do stuff with. There are emotional moments that would make sense for Uncle Ben to have some sort of mention or something, but there's not a single name drop of Uncle Ben in the entire movie. On top of that, all the things that I relate to Peter Parker with, things that I see in him, like having a job, going to work at the Daily Bugle and being a photographer, and J. Jonah Jameson thinking that Spider-Man's a villain, and things like, being poor and this web of villains that exists within New York. Those things don't appear in Spider-Man Homecoming, the things that I have since associated with Spider-Man since the original Spider-Man movie in 2002. Additionally, he doesn't have any Spidey sense, which is fine, but the problem with him not having any Spidey sense is you don't get to see slow motion sequences of how he thinks. Even in the movie Amazing Spider-Man 2, which most people consider to be one of the worst Spider-Man movies, Spider-Man at least has moments where you get to see the way he thinks, and you get to see the way that he processes information. And so when we get in his head, we can see the way he thinks, and it makes action sequences so much cooler, and we get to see that fast-paced, kinetic Spider-Man action in a slower way so we can digest it all. I know a lot of people don't like slow motion, but with something like Spider-Man, it's integral to showing off that character's powers, similarly to how you would with The Flash. I mean, it really comes down to the fact that there's no city at all in that movie. There's so little, but it seems like it's such an important part of who Spider-Man is, would it have killed them to have just one high tense, in the air fight with Vulture in between building tops and them falling, and Spider-Man wrapping around the Vulture and trying to bring him down, but he keeps breaking out and doing his thing. It just seems like that would be such an easy, obvious fight to have, but nothing like that ever happens. Okay, for this next part, I can't continue without going into spoilers. So spoilers from here on out. There's a scene in which all this rubble that has been put on Spider-Man, and Tom Holland gives an amazing performance where Peter Parker cries and he screams for help, and it's amazing. But the voice that he hears in his head to cheer him on, instead of being someone like Aunt May or I don't know, even Uncle Ben, who's obviously been has been in Peter's life to some capacity, he doesn't hear any of that. He hears a line from earlier in the movie said by Tony Stark of all people, and it's not an inspirational line. It's not with great power comes great responsibility. Tony Stark says, if you're nothing without the suit, then you don't deserve it, which isn't inspiration, that is criticism. That's if someone was oh, I need to get really pumped up for this play of this, football game, and they remembered this line from their coach being oh, get in the game, shithead, it doesn't work. It doesn't have any inspiration, and we have nothing to believe that Peter Parker would even that would work for him. We have no reason to believe that Tony Stark is even that much of an inspiration, because we see him in the movie and we can see through telling us that Peter Parker likes Tony Stark, but there's no emotional proof. We don't have, none of it wasn't earned for us. It was just there, and it kind of bummed me out. Overall, Spider-Man Homecoming is an awesome movie. It's super fun, it's great, but the problem is that there are things that are ultimately missing from this character that need to be there for us to have a full Spider-Man Peter Parker experience. Does that make sense? We need to get out of here quick.